Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Gossips 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The music was already playing, soft and romantic, drifting through the sunlit courtyard like a promise no one realized was about to be shattered. And for a moment everything looked exactly the way a perfect Forrester wedding was supposed to look. White roses climbing the arch, guests seated with expectant smiles, Brooke dabbing at her eyes even before the vows had begun, Hope standing radiant and nervous at the altar, her hands trembling just slightly as she waited for Liam to take his place. Beside her, while Liam himself stood frozen halfway down the aisle, not because of nerves, not because of second thoughts, but because something deep in his chest felt wrong in a way he couldn't explain, like a warning his heart was trying to scream over the music, over the murmurs, over the minister's calm voice asking everyone to rise. No one noticed Wyatt at first. He wasn't seated. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't even pretending to enjoy the moment. He stood at the back, just beyond the last row of chairs, his face pale, his jaw tight, his hands clenched like he was physically holding himself together, eyes locked on Liam with a look that wasn't joy or pride or brotherly affection, but fear, raw, desperate fear. And when the minister began to speak, when the words "dearly beloved" echoed into the warm air, Wyatt finally broke, his voice cutting through the ceremony like a gunshot, loud, cracked, unmistakable. "Stop!" The music died instantly. Chairs scraped. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Hope turned, confusion flashing across her face, while Liam spun around, his heart slamming into his ribs as he saw his brother striding forward, eyes glassy, breath uneven, looking like a man walking toward an execution he'd scheduled himself. "Wyatt, what are you doing?" Liam demanded, his voice sharp but already trembling, because somewhere deep down, he knew this wasn't about cold feet or family drama or another Spencer interruption. This was something else. Something bigger. Wyatt stopped just a few feet away from the altar, swallowing hard, his gaze flicking to Hope, then to Bill, then back to Liam, and when he spoke again his voice shook so badly it barely sounded like him. "I can't let this happen. I won't let you marry her. Not until you know the truth." Brooke stood up. Bill swore under his breath. Ridge's expression hardened instantly. "Wyatt, this is not the time," Ridge snapped, already stepping forward. But Wyatt cut him off with a single look. "No. It's exactly the time," he said, his voice cracking as tears filled his eyes. "Because once you say those vows, once you walk away, Liam, there's no undoing this." Liam took a step toward him, anger rising now, layered over confusion. "Undoing what?" "Wyatt, you're scaring everyone. Just say whatever stupid joke this is and sit down." Wyatt laughed weakly at that, a broken sound that made Hope's stomach twist. "I wish it was a joke," he whispered. "God, I wish it was." The crowd was silent now, every guest frozen, every camera forgotten, every breath held as Wyatt turned fully to Liam, his brother, the man he'd spent his entire life competing with, protecting, envying, loving. "He's your son, Liam." The words hit like an explosion. For a split second no one moved. No one breathed. Then Hope gasped, one hand flying to her mouth as color drained from her face. Liam stared at Wyatt like he'd lost his mind. "What did you just say?" he demanded, his voice barely above a whisper. Wyatt shook his head, tears finally spilling over. "I said he's your son," he repeated, louder now, stronger, like saying it again made it real. "The little boy you've been fighting to protect. The one you thought was mine." A murmur swept through the guests. Bill's eyes went wide. Brooke looked like she was going to faint. The minister quietly stepped back, sensing the ceremony was over before it had ever really begun. Liam felt the world tilt beneath his feet. "That's impossible," he said, shaking his head, his mind scrambling for logic, for denial, for anything to anchor him. "You're his father. We did the test." The test was switched," Wyatt interrupted, his voice breaking completely now. "I didn't know at first. I swear to you I didn't. I believed it. I believed he was mine. But then things didn't add up. The dates. The doctor. The lab." He dragged a hand down his face. "And when I finally looked into it, when I found the truth, it destroyed me." Hope's knees buckled slightly, and Brooke rushed forward to steady her, whispering her name, but Hope couldn't take her eyes off Liam, couldn't look away from the devastation spreading across his face as realization began to seep in. "You knew," Liam said hoarsely. "You knew this whole time." Wyatt nodded, tears streaming freely now. "I tried to convince myself it didn't matter. That I could still be a good father. That blood didn't change anything. But every time I looked at him I saw you. And every time you held him, every time you fought for him, I felt like I was stealing something that was never mine." Liam staggered back a step, his chest tight, his breath shallow. Memories slammed into him all at once. His connection to the child, the instinctive protectiveness, the way it felt natural in a way he'd never questioned. "Why now?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Why today?" Wyatt looked around at the wedding, at the flowers, at Hope standing there in her gown, at Liam about to promise his life to someone else. "Because I couldn't let you marry her without knowing you already had a son," he said simply. "Because I couldn't watch you walk away from him." Silence hung heavy as Liam turned slowly toward Hope, his eyes full of pain, apology, love, fear, all colliding at once. "I didn't know," he whispered. Hope nodded numbly, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I believe you," she said, though her voice shook. "But this changes everything." Liam looked back at Wyatt then, anger finally igniting through the shock. "You let me believe he wasn't mine," he said, his voice rising. "You let me fight you. You let me lose time with my own child." Wyatt flinched. "I know," he sobbed. "And I'll live with that for the rest of my life." Bill stepped forward now, his expression unreadable, eyes locked on Wyatt. "You're telling me my grandson is Liam's son," Wyatt finished. "Yes." Bill exhaled slowly, something between awe and regret crossing his face. Ridge muttered, "Unbelievable." Brooke whispered, "Oh my God." Hope finally spoke again, her voice trembling but clear. "We can't do this today," she said, looking at Liam. "Not after this." Liam nodded slowly, tears filling his own eyes now as the weight of fatherhood, betrayal, love, and responsibility crashed down on him all at once. He turned back to Wyatt. "Where is he?" Wyatt wiped his face. "With my mom. She knows. She's been waiting for this." Liam swallowed hard, then looked around at the stunned guests, at the altar that now felt like a relic from another lifetime. "I'm not getting married today," he said quietly. "I'm becoming a father." The words settled like a final verdict. Hope closed her eyes, pain etched across her face, but she nodded, understanding even through heartbreak. The minister quietly stepped away. Guests began whispering. Cameras lowered. And as the wedding dissolved into chaos, Wyatt stood there shaking, knowing he'd just destroyed one future to finally give his brother the truth. And as Liam walked past him, stopping just long enough to meet his eyes, neither of them spoke, because some revelations didn't need words, only the heavy, irreversible silence of lives changed forever. The courtyard didn't empty all at once. It unraveled. Guests didn't leave so much as drift away in stunned clusters, whispering behind their hands, avoiding eye contact, carrying fragments of a wedding that would now only be remembered as the day everything broke. Chairs sat abandoned, programs fluttered against the stone floor, and the arch of white roses, meant to frame a promise, now felt like a cruel joke, standing there untouched, pristine, witnessing a truth that had no place in a fairy tale. Liam barely noticed any of it. His world had narrowed to a single thought, repeating in his mind with every breath he took. "I have a son." The words didn't feel real yet. They felt like something spoken in another language, something he understood intellectually, but hadn't fully absorbed into his bones. He stood near the altar, staring at nothing, his hands clenched at his sides, while Hope quietly untied the ribbon at the back of her gown with Brooke's help, her movements mechanical, like she was performing a task without permission from her heart. When Hope finally turned toward Liam, her eyes were red but steady. "I'm going to go home," she said softly. "I don't think I can be here anymore." Liam nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand," he replied, though understanding didn't make it hurt less. He took a step toward her, hesitation written across his face. "Hope!" She stopped him with a small shake of her head. "Not today," she said gently. "Today belongs to your son." The word son landed heavy between them, both of them knowing that nothing about their lives would ever be simple again. Hope walked away without another word, Brooke following close behind, casting one last worried glance over her shoulder at Liam before disappearing through the courtyard doors. Wyatt watched it all unfold from a distance, his chest tight, guilt coiling deeper with every step Hope took away from the man she loved. He knew that look. He'd worn it himself. The look of someone realizing their future had just split in half, with no clear path forward. Bill approached Liam next, his usual swagger stripped away, replaced by something quieter, more conflicted. "So," Bill said carefully, "you're a father." Liam finally looked at him, really looked at him and nodded. "Apparently." Bill exhaled slowly. "I should be angry," he admitted. "Hell, part of me is. But another part of me, that part's proud." Liam frowned. "Proud of what?" Bill gestured vaguely, his voice roughening. "Of you stepping up. Of you always fighting for what matters, even when you don't know why." He paused, then added, "That kid's lucky to have you." The words settled somewhere deep in Liam's chest, warming and terrifying him all at once. "I don't even know where to start," Liam said quietly. "I missed so much." Bill placed a hand on his shoulder, firm and grounding. "Then you start now." Wyatt finally found the courage to approach. His steps were slow, cautious, like he was walking toward an injured animal that might bolt or bite. "Liam," he said softly. Liam turned, his expression unreadable. "Where is he?" Wyatt answered without hesitation. "At my mom's. She's been watching him while all this." He trailed off, ashamed. "I'll take you there," he added quickly. Liam studied his brother for a long moment. The anger was still there, raw, unresolved, but beneath it was something else too. Grief for time lost, for trust broken, for a relationship that would never be the same. "We're not okay," Liam said finally. "And we won't be for a long time." Wyatt nodded, tears burning behind his eyes. "I know. But I'm not going to make this about us today," Liam continued. "This is about him." Wyatt let out a shaky breath. "Thank you." The drive to Quinn's house was silent. The city blurred past the windows, familiar streets suddenly unfamiliar, like Liam was seeing everything through a different lens. Every stoplight felt like a countdown. Every mile brought him closer to a child who shared his blood, his name, his future. Wyatt kept glancing over, clearly wanting to speak, to explain, to apologize again, but Liam's jaw was set, his gaze fixed straight ahead. When they finally arrived, Quinn opened the door almost immediately, as if she'd been waiting behind it the whole time. Her eyes went straight to Liam. "You're here," she said softly. Liam nodded, emotion clogging his throat. "I need to see him." Quinn stepped aside, gesturing toward the living room. "He's napping." Liam moved slowly, reverently, as if any sudden movement might shatter the moment. The room was quiet, bathed in afternoon light, and there, curled on the couch, clutching a small blanket, was his son. Liam stopped breathing. The resemblance hit him instantly. The shape of his mouth, the faint furrow in his brow, the way his hand curled into a fist even in sleep. It was like looking at a piece of himself he hadn't known was missing. "Oh my God," Liam whispered. He sank to his knees beside the couch, tears finally spilling over as the weight of it all came crashing down. That's my boy." Quinn watched from the doorway, her expression unreadable but not unkind. Wyatt hovered behind Liam, arms crossed tightly over his chest, like he was holding himself together by force alone. Liam reached out, hesitating just before touching his son's hand, afraid of waking him, afraid of claiming something he didn't yet feel worthy of. When his fingers finally brushed that tiny palm, something inside him cracked wide open. "I'm here," Liam murmured, voice breaking. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here before." The baby stirred slightly, then settled again, unaware that his entire world had just shifted. Wyatt turned away, wiping his face, unable to watch any longer. He knew this was right. He also knew it was the end of something he tried desperately to hold on to. Later, after the baby woke and Liam held him for the first time, really held him, feeling his weight, his warmth, the quiet miracle of his existence, the house filled with a strange, fragile calm. Liam didn't want to let go. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Quinn exchanged a glance with Wyatt. "That's up to you," she said honestly. "But you should know. I never stopped believing he'd end up with you." Liam looked down at his son again, awe softening his features. "I won't disappear," he promised. I won't make the same mistake twice. Wyatt finally spoke, his voice low and raw. I'll support whatever you decide, he said. I just want what's best for him. Liam met his brother's eyes. Then give me space, he said. Time. Honesty. Wyatt nodded. You'll have it. As night fell, Liam stayed, rocking his son gently, whispering promises he intended to keep. Somewhere across town, Hope sat alone in the dark, still wearing the faint imprint of where her wedding ring should have been, wondering how love could feel so right and so impossible at the same time. And as the truth rippled outward, through families, through hearts, through futures no longer certain, one thing became clear. The wedding might have ended, but a far more powerful story had just begun. Morning came too quietly. Liam noticed it first when pale sunlight crept across the living room floor at Quinn's house, illuminating dust motes in the air and the soft rise and fall of his son's chest as he slept against Liam's shoulder. He hadn't slept at all. Every time his eyes closed, his mind replayed the same images. Hope standing at the altar, Wyatt's voice slicing through the vows, the shock that froze everyone in place, and then this small warm life in his arms that somehow made everything before feel like a rehearsal for the role he'd been meant to play all along. His arm was numb, his back stiff, but he didn't move. He was afraid that if he shifted even slightly, the moment would end, that reality would snap back into something crueler and less forgiving. He brushed his thumb gently along the baby's cheek, marveling at how something so small could carry so much weight. I'm still here, he whispered, mostly to himself. I didn't disappear overnight. The baby stirred, let out a soft sound that felt like a promise, and Liam felt his chest tighten all over again. In another part of the city, Hope woke with a gasp, heart pounding, her dream already dissolving into fragments she didn't want to remember. Liam's face fading into the distance, a child's cry echoing through empty hallways, her wedding dress hanging on her like a costume she'd forgotten to take off. She sat up in bed, hands shaking, the quiet of her bedroom pressing in around her. The ring was gone. She'd slipped it off sometime in the night and left it on the nightstand, where it caught the light in a way that felt accusatory. She stared at it for a long time before finally swinging her legs over the side of the bed. There was a message on her phone. One message. From Liam. I don't expect anything from you today. I just wanted you to know I'm thinking about you. Hope closed her eyes, tears spilling freely now. She typed a response, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. No words felt right. Everything felt either too much or not enough. She needed to see him. She needed to hear his voice without an audience, without shock or ceremony or judgment. She needed to know where she stood in a world that had rearranged itself overnight. Wyatt didn't sleep either. He sat alone in his apartment, lights off, staring at nothing, replaying every decision that had led him here. He'd told himself lies that felt noble at the time, that he was protecting the child, that he was sparing Liam confusion, that love mattered more than biology. But now those lies echoed hollowly, stripped bare by the look on Liam's face when the truth finally landed. Wyatt pressed his palms against his eyes, fighting the wave of nausea that came with the realization that no amount of good intentions could undo the damage. He'd lost something precious, not just the illusion of fatherhood, but his brother's trust, and maybe forever. By mid-morning, Liam knew he couldn't stay hidden behind this fragile bubble any longer. Reality was waiting, and the first step was hope. When Quinn offered to watch the baby so he could step out, he hesitated, the instinct to stay overwhelming. I won't be long, he said, more to reassure himself than anyone else. I just need to talk to her. Quinn nodded knowingly. She deserves that. The drive to Hope's place felt heavier than the drive to Quinn's had the day before. This time there was no shock to carry him forward, no adrenaline. Just the slow, steady weight of consequences. When Hope opened the door, she looked smaller somehow, wrapped in a sweater that swallowed her frame, her eyes red-rimmed but resolute. They stood there for a long moment, neither of them moving. Hi, Liam said finally. Hi, Hope replied. He stepped inside, the familiar space suddenly unfamiliar, like a home rearranged by strangers. I'm not here to pressure you, he said quickly. I just needed to see you. To talk. Hope nodded, gesturing toward the couch. They sat with space between them, a silence stretching out, thick with everything unsaid. How is he? Hope asked softly. Liam swallowed. Perfect, he said. He's perfect. Hope smiled faintly, pain flickering behind her eyes. I'm glad. She took a breath. I meant what I said yesterday. I believe you. I know you didn't know. Liam leaned forward, elbows on his knees. But believing me doesn't make this easier. Hope shook her head. No. It doesn't. Tears welled again, but she didn't let them fall. I thought yesterday was the beginning of the rest of our lives, she admitted. And instead it was the end of the one I'd imagined. Liam's voice broke. I never wanted to hurt you. Hope looked at him, then really looked at him. I know. And that's what makes this so hard. There's no villain here. Just reality. She hesitated, then asked the question she'd been avoiding since the wedding fell apart. What do you want, Liam? He didn't answer immediately. He thought of his son's weight in his arms, of the fierce protectiveness that had taken root so quickly it terrified him. I want to be a father, he said honestly. Fully. Present. I won't compromise on that. Hope nodded slowly. And us. Liam's eyes filled. I don't know how to separate those things, he admitted. I don't know how to ask you to stay when I don't even know what my life looks like now. Hope closed her eyes, a tear finally escaping. I can't compete with a child, she whispered. And I don't want to. Liam reached for her hand, stopping just short. I would never ask you to. She opened her eyes. Then we need time, she said firmly, though it clearly cost her to say it. Time to figure out who we are now. Apart. Liam nodded, devastation washing over him. If that's what you need, I'll respect it. They sat there, hands inches apart, hearts breaking quietly in sync. When Liam finally stood to leave, Hope surprised him by pulling him into a brief, fierce hug. I love you, she said into his shoulder. That hasn't changed. Liam held on for just a second longer than he should have. I love you too. Outside, Liam leaned against his car, taking a shaky breath before driving back to Quinn's. Inside the house, Wyatt was waiting. He stood as soon as Liam entered, tension etched into every line of his body. How did it go? He asked cautiously. Liam paused. She needs space, he said. Wyatt nodded. That makes sense. An uncomfortable silence followed. Finally Wyatt spoke. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. But I need you to know. I never stopped loving him. And I never stopped loving you either. Liam looked at his brother, exhaustion softening his anger just enough to let honesty through. I don't hate you, he said. But trust isn't something I can just flip back on. Wyatt nodded, accepting it. Then I'll earn it. Or I'll live without it. Either way, I'll do right by him. Liam glanced toward the living room, where his son slept peacefully, unaware of the chaos surrounding his existence. That's all that matters right now, he said quietly. And as the day wore on, through whispered phone calls, fractured family reactions, and hearts struggling to realign, one truth settled in. Nothing could ever go back to the way it was. But somewhere within the wreckage, something new was taking shape. Fragile, uncertain, and worth fighting for.